This A&M South Carolina thing is crazy.
Like, that's the story of the Saturday, right? Like, I was trying to think, like, what's the most important takeaway from what we saw on Saturday? Is that it?
Texas A&M lost to South Carolina. They are now 3-4. They're playing Ole Miss next week. Like 7-5 feels kind of far away at this point. Like 6-6, 5-7 feel much more on the table now. Ari, it's year 5. They will not fire Jimbo Fisher. Some rando on Twitter. Well, he's not rando. He's got like 23,000 followers and a blue check, but said that I reported that Texas A&M was going to buy out Jimbo Fisher. I reported no such thing. No one is writing that check. Ari.
The blue check is writing the check.
That blue check is writing a check that his butt can't cash. But Ari, $85,950,000. That is what Texas A&M would owe Jimbo Fisher to fire him after this season. I'm going to say it out loud again. $85,950,000.
Yeah, I was just went on a rant a few days ago about how dumb it is to give out $100 million guaranteed. Is it dumber to pay $85 million to move on from a coach? Because I feel like any program in the country, if anybody could afford it, it might be A&M. But like, that is the dumbest thing. I don't even think
they're not
possible.
Do it. I'm telling you right now, they're not.
No, I know. It's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my entire life. So, you know, especially considering the fact, and my stance has always been this with A&M is, if you fire your coach right now, let's just say you're dumb enough to come up with that money, you're throwing everything that they did last year's recruiting cycle in the trash. You know, at that point, you're blowing up your program.
You might be throwing that in the trash anyway. They might be leaving anyway.
That could absolutely happen.
This.
Yeah, no, that could absolutely happen. And losing to South Carolina, even though they seem to be improved, you know, quite a bit from what they've been the last few years, is kind of like one of those losses where it's like, don't talk about the record. Don't talk about what they could be at the end of the year or whatever. It's the type of loss that it's just like, we're really here. We're in losing to South Carolina territory. Like,
bottom line, you're supposed to be better than them.
Yeah, even in the down year, you're supposed to be better than them.
This is what Florida, this is the realization they came to after they lost to South Carolina last year. That was when the decision was made to fire Dan Mullen. They didn't actually fire him for 2 weeks later, but the decision was made.
They're stuck. And, you know, the fact of the matter is that you got to hope that Jimbo Fisher can do what he can to keep those prospects in the program and keep doing what he's doing in the recruiting trail to get people to believe. That might be a
Why
much harder.
Why would you sign with him watching this?
I mean, people could say that last year too, right?
But, you know, if the same stuff keeps happening over and over, why would you do it?
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, and if they have a bad class this year, then that flash in the pan is going to be a flash in the pan. So, you know, I watching that game, I watched it from start to finish. I couldn't take my eyes off of it. And their offense is so horrid. Horrid.
Well, I love when Connor Wegman comes in after Haynes King gets hurt. And he's moving people around and doing all this stuff. And you hear Jordan Rodgers on the broadcast say, they're not babying Connor Wegman. Well, maybe they should be babying him.
Yeah.
Make it easier for your quarterback. That is why you're getting paid all that money.
You know, I actually thought that his ball looked pretty good. You know, the fact of the matter is he was, you know, catching snaps and there were 9 people in his face, you know, right off the bat, you know, and it's like, you're not supposed to be in a position. It's the same thing that we said about Texas.
Also, you had an open date to figure out the snapping situation because they lost their center at the end of the Alabama game, remember?
Right. You know, and they had
an open date to figure it out. You knew you'd be in a loud environment, and yet you couldn't figure that out. And you had a bunch of false starts.
The hardest part about this podcast, Andy, is that, and when it comes to talking about this, is that they have no options here. Like, the only thing that an A&M fan can do is hope for 2 things. One, that Jimbo Fisher somehow salvages the talent train coming in and staying on the team, right? And then 2, he's forced or is put in a position or has a epiphany that he needs to hire an offensive coordinator and a play caller. But all the other things that you can hope for as a fan in other normal scenarios where there is an 85 mil just hanging out there over his head, aren't in play here. So it's unacceptable. In year 5, there's no question that this is far off from what they should be, even in a down year. What Connor Wegman did or didn't do in this game, like all this stuff in general is all true, but they're stuck. It's what we talked about when we were in College Station together 3 weeks ago, and it's getting worse now. And, I don't know if you're losing to South Carolina on the road and the only time you can score a touchdown is, when they turn the ball over inside their own 30, but like, I don't look at the schedule and think that anything's a guaranteed win at this point.
Nothing is a given. Nothing is. I think they have. Well, they might have another FCS game coming up, but like Auburn, Texas A&M, I don't know. Now, I do think they will finally score more than 24 points against an FBS team when they face my alma mater in a couple weeks. But
I don't know if that's a given.
But I don't know that they'll win the game. I just think they might score more than 24.
Yeah, so, I don't know. That sounds like another bet where you've got to go eat $40 at Taco Bell breakfast. But
don't threaten me with a good time, Ari.
And I mean, honestly, I don't have any confidence whatsoever in their ability to move the football.
Let's talk about your column from September 25th when you were in Jerry World.
Oh God!
And you said Texas A&M didn't save its season. It may have saved its future. This is after the Arkansas game. I think maybe they just got lucky on that one play when KJ Jefferson reached the ball over the 3-yard line.
But it's amazing how much has changed in the way we view things since that time. Was that a month ago? The thought process there for A&M was, they're not going to win the SEC this year. They've certainly got deficiencies on the offensive side of the ball. The fact that they're playing in a big time game, or at least a, neutral field game in a stadium like that's nationally televised and everybody's watching, like to salvage
every game they play is nationally televised. It's 2022.
You know what I mean? It was the game of the week. People were watching it that wouldn't otherwise be watching it. It just seemed like they had a chance to eke their way out in games down the line. It's like I thought that win was a symptom of they're definitely going to beat South Carolina, and in the moment it's like, well, this has been a tough go of it. The App State loss really stinks, but if they can hang tough in the SEC and get to 8 or 9 wins this year, salvage the dream, salvage the vision, they might be able to keep these guys on the roster and sign another really good class and then come into next year really, really good. And now all those things that I wrote about in that column a month ago have certainly changed. And I certainly wish I had the foresight to know that they were going to lose this game. Could have made a lot of money.
Well, this is probably the flip side of that game because it started with a 100-yard kickoff return, a near pick six. Like that's why South Carolina won the game. They did that and then hung on.
5 minutes. Yeah.
They had a couple of nice drives, like exactly two nice drives, and that's why they won the game. So it is sort of the funhouse mirror version of the Arkansas game. So they were going to lose one of those two, and that's the one they won, and this is the one they lost. But yeah, I have zero confidence going forward. UMass is the other team they play. I said FCS is not. It is an FBS team. It is the Minutemen. So they got them down the road.
What's going to be their team total, point total on that one? Like 36.5?
It's not going to be high. It's not going to be high. But I mean, they have to play Ole Miss, Florida, Auburn, and LSU still.
Well, let me hit you with an over-under here of my own.
Okay.
So I think they signed 26 guys in their last year's class. I don't remember the number right off the top of my head. I can find it real quick, but let's just say 26 while I'm looking. What is the over-under of transfer portal entries that A&M can survive from their roster out?
From their roster or from the 2022 class?
The 2022 class that's on their roster right now. How many of those players who are on the roster can leave but then weather the storm? Like when do you start to push the danger button?
Like 10. I don't know if you know, but there's a top 5 team that lost like half its team to the portal in January 2021.
No, I'm saying, but for Texas A&M to continue to hold on to salvage something out of that, you think that they could lose more than 10 and still be okay?
Yeah, I do. I watched Tennessee lose like 20 and they're okay. More than okay.
I mean, if they lose,
it's almost as if having a coach who runs an offense that's easy for the quarterback and the receivers to run, that makes life easy for them instead of make it challenging for them, is a better idea than trying to have all of your quarterbacks learn an incredibly difficult playbook, and you're going to call whatever play is the perfect play in that playbook, whether that quarterback is good at running it or not.
I'm an idiot. They signed 30 last year. If they lost more than 10 of the players who were in that class last year, I think that's when the meltdown truly begins. Listen, if this isn't it.
They lost Kyler Murray and Kyle Allen in the same week at one point during the Kevin Sumlin era. It's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like that's what, when A&M signed their class, everybody was like, well, good for them. It'll be cool to see when they all transfer in a year. And it's like the entire worth of that program's direction right now is tied up with those kids that were in that class. And if it falls apart and they lose it, like I know that Tennessee, salvaged a season and,
and became one of the best teams in college football.
I know. Yeah. But if A&M, if you take that away from the A&M, they've got freaking nothing. So I don't care what the hell Tennessee just did.
They still have
this is everything
players
to them.
Like,
this is everything.
If you take the top half of that class away, you take that off the roster.
You take 10 top 100 players off the roster. They
more talented team than the one they lost to tonight.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. No question. I just
so they don't have
the
nothing.
Vision of
Shane Beamer doesn't have nothing. Shane Beamer has 5 wins this season.
The entire existence of an A&M fan is clinging to the future that class promises. You rip that class away from them and stack that on this year, you are at square one when you thought you were at square.
I don't know how to break this to you. They're at square one anyway.
Yeah, well, I don't know if I 100% agree with that. If you build on the players that are infinitely better than a lot of the players that are going into a lot of, because they're freshmen right now. But if you lose your freshmen and you can't build off of what you signed, then
Ari, there's this thing called the transfer portal. The 25
I'm aware.
New player a year rule is gone. So you can lose all of your players.
I can't believe you think that losing 10 top 100 players would be no big deal. That wouldn't just be that would just be fine.
If you're 5-7, it doesn't matter.
I know, but they're 5-7 now. Anyway. They're trying to be better in the future with those players.
Ari, you think it has to be them. It doesn't have to be them. It can be anybody.
But that's what I'm saying. But the Jimbo Fisher value right now of what he's building and bringing is tied up to that class.
Not really. Could do it with a different class. Doesn't matter. But if he keeps doing this, they're going to leave, and other good players are not going to come.
Which is exactly what I'm just trying to say.
Vote of no confidence. So, yes, we're getting to the same place in different ways. We've probably piled on Texas A&M enough, but it's just amazing to me because there's nothing you can do. There's no leverage. You have no leverage. There is no person on campus at Texas A&M that could walk into Jimbo Fisher's office and say, we would like it if you would try this or try this or try this.
Well, let me ask you this. I saw somebody tweet this. If he had a reasonable buyout or no buyout, is he gone?
Yes. It's year 5. Yeah. If he went 5-7 this season, 6-6 this season with a reasonable buyout, he'd be gone. Now, here's the thing. Even if he hadn't gotten the extension, that buyout would still be in the neighborhood of $36 million. They wouldn't have, I don't think they would have paid that. But if it was Gus Malzahn level.
Do you know what the record for buyout paid is off the top of your head?
Gus Malzahn, 21.
21? That's the record?
Yep.
Yeah. We're talking about over 4 times as much of the record.